Hello, lovely people. Kate, hypnotherapist with you, and we are talking today about this kind of a term that people call inner frustration, right? So, inner frustration is something that everyone is feeling. At some point in your life, we all feel like we are frustrated at some point. Maybe it lasts for like a couple of minutes, maybe it lasts for a long time, but it is there. It's telling us something, and it definitely has a purpose. So, internal frustration is a bottled up anger, right? So, it's an anger, but socially not accepted to be called anger. Like, for example, if you are an SEO or you are a boss or you're a manager in a very reputable company, right? You cannot say, oh, I'm so angry, I'm so mad. No, you have to say, I'm frustrated. This is an acceptable word. And though inside you are angry, but someone somehow grade the anger, right? But it is anger. Doesn't matter if it's a strong anger or it's like a light anger. It is an anger. But in society, you cannot say I'm angry. It's a very strong word, right? But the symptoms are the same. So if you are frustrated, you have anger, right? You are internally frustrated. You cannot show it because you won't be accepted, you won't fit in, you might be criticized or even punished, right, for being angry. Anger is always punished. It almost always punished or reprimanded or criticized, right? People who have anger issues, they are usually getting in trouble, they're difficult to deal with, right? However, frustration or anger, right, it is a pain, it's a hurt inside. So if you see a person who is angry, it doesn't give them the excuse for what they do, of course, but you can definitely understand that there is a pain, unmet needs, right? Any frustration, internal, external, if you're showing it, right, or not showing it, it is an unmet need. It's an unmet need for acceptance, for validation, for attention, for love, for support, for understanding, right? For validation, for praise, for celebration, right? So any need that you have a right for, right? If it's not met, then you get frustrated, of course. Especially if you have been suppressing that anger for many, many years when you were a child because it wasn't acceptable to show anger. What are the symptoms of the inner frustration, right? And I would call it inner anger because it's the same, And some people will tell me, oh, no, I'm just a little bit frustrated, right? You're just angry, but you're not allowed to be angry. So you're like frustrated. However, the feelings are the same inside. So what are the symptoms? The symptoms is like it can be anxiety, right? It can be anxiety that is in the moment. Like in the moment of frustration, you can feel the anxiety, right? Because you have this inner conflict. Panic attack or anxiety always happens when you are in an inner conflict, when one part of you wants something and the other part is not getting it, and the other part wants something else, or kind of feels like it wants something else. So there is an inner conflict. What happens in the mind of a person who is angry or has this internal frustration? They usually have inner dialogue with themselves or with the person who hurt them. So they usually are, like they're talking, this internal dialogue. They are sometimes replaying all the scenarios. If the conflict has already happened, right, and you are frustrated that you didn't act the way you wanted, you didn't say all the words you wanted to say, you didn't communicate maybe what you wanted to communicate, then you will have this inner frustration. You will be replaying the dialogue over and over again. It can happen like the recent conflict, or it can happen like a breakup that happened 15 years ago. You can still replay that scene. Why? Because it's unresolved. It is an unresolved business. Whatever you're thinking about, it's not whatever you're thinking about from the past, with anxiety, with guilt, with shame, with pain, with hurt, right? It's all unresolved business. It's something that it will be showing up in your life later, or it's showing up right now in the form of symptoms, in the form of blocks, limiting beliefs, struggles. You feel like sometimes the anxiety is so strong, like it's like you wanted to say something in a conflict, right? That you have like this feeling of choking. Like it's a feeling like you wanted to say something, but you couldn't. Why cannot we say what we want? Because we are repressed. Almost all of us are repressed. At some point, we learn how to express ourselves and our feelings, but in many cases, I would say in most cases, we were born with these strict restrictions, limitations of what we have, what we need, what we should do, and otherwise, you're not going to be in the community. You're not going to fit in. You're not going to be loved, right? So that's why we repress, we suppress our emotions. And that's where the anger comes out, right? And frustration as well. So feeling of like choking, which means if you think about your body-mind connection, you will understand that you want to say something, but you couldn't. So on top of the guilt, on top of the rethinking, overthinking the past events, you will have this, lump in the throat that you wanted to say something, express something, but you couldn't find a voice, right? So it's like sometimes even people will say, "Oh, the words just stuck in my chest. The words that I wanted to say were just stuck in my throat." It's because you don't know how to do that. It's not your fault that you couldn't express your feelings. It's because you didn't know how. No one taught you that, right? And people were teaching you, or parents, or teachers, or whoever was raising you, right? Or your environment were teaching you that no, you should be a good girl, you should be a good boy, right? So also another symptom of the inner frustration, because there is a conflict, is a self-sabotage, right? So your true self wants something, your ego finds excuses or says that you shouldn't do that, or you should do it but you cannot, you find excuses, right? So and then you end up not doing it, you end up finding excuses, and this is called self-sabotage, right? So self-sabotage is just a symptom, right? Symptom of this inner conflict. This inner conflict has the reason why it happened. So what is the reason of the internal anger, internal frustration that is like bottling up in you, and you feel it, right? Sometimes you feel it in your chest, sometimes you feel it in your head, sometimes you feel it in your muscles, these people who are maybe bullers, or they are abusers, right? They feel it in their muscles, the anger, right? For people who are not on a lower road, right? They are just, they might feel it in their physical symptoms. The first reason for that, and I think it's very, very important, is unclear communication in the past, whether it's in the childhood, or whether the communication at your workplace, or in the family, in the relationship, right? If it is unclear, if you were confused all the time. So this is really important. When I work with my clients, I very often go to these scenes that people, how do you feel in that memory? And they say, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. It's so unfair. I don't understand why, right? So unclear communication, or a lack of communication whatsoever, right? So usually people, if it happened in a workplace, or if it happened in a childhood, they feel confused. So they don't know where is the clear communication, right? So clear communication is very important in order to avoid inner frustration. High expectations of your parents. If your parents had high expectations of yourself, you will have high expectation of yourself as well. And sometimes the expectations are so high that physically and mentally you cannot do this, or maybe you can, but you don't know how, right? So you lack resources and information. So anyway, these high expectation can get you this inner frustration when you cannot reach your goal, when you want something that you feel is right for you, but you don't know how to get there, or you didn't succeed, or you made a mistake. This is all can cause this inner anger, right? Which is just hurt. You are hurt. Whenever a person is angry, they are in pain. They just cannot really agree to it or confirm it, right? Another one is, and as I already said, is repressed emotions. If as a child or growing up, you were told that boys don't cry, be a good girl, behave when we are outside, for example, or we are at the family gathering, you have to behave. Please behave nicely. Please be appropriate. Please act appropriate. Please be a good boy, be a good girl, Don't you dare cry. Don't you dare say a word. So all of these phrases for a child, for a teenager, right? They form the belief. You form the belief that I cannot express myself. So, and this will be inner anger. And it sometimes happens very early, sometimes not. Sometimes it happens like recently, you are at work where you cannot express yourself, but you do want to, right? So it can happen at any point, right? However, the more anger you have, the further it goes into the childhood. The more anger issues you have, the more suppressed emotions you have. So this is really important to understand, right? What to do, like, in order to kind of release, right? Release or help yourself, or kind of get to know what to do in this case, right? With any anger, the best way is to release it without harming anyone. This is really important, right? Anger usually is expressed and other people get hurt. And then it's worse, right? So expressing anger means journaling, going and, punching a pillow. It could be exercising. By the way, people who exercise a lot, like obsessively exercise, they have this anger that they want to, these emotions, these repressed emotions that they want to release, because every time after the workout, when they sweat, they feel the release of the stress hormones, right? And it's good to some extent, not when it's like obsessive. Crying is essential in releasing emotions. It's essential in releasing frustration. So cry. Don't ever put any social expectations on the term of the crying, right? If you want to cry, you cry. And if someone says that it's not good, that it doesn't help, tears don't help resolve the issue. Yes, they don't help resolve the issue, but they give you the space. When you release the emotion, you feel safe and you feel better. And when you feel better, you can make better decisions, right? So crying is good. Dialoguing with the issue or with the person that you have a conflict with. So if you cannot express your emotions because of the workplace, right? You're not allowed to, right? Maybe you are a child still, right? Dialogue with that person when that person is not there. So it's kind of called empty chair, I think, when you close your eyes and you imagine, or you just don't close your eyes, doesn't matter, but you imagine that person in front of you, and then you're dialoguing and you're becoming that person, right? And you can answer those questions that you are asking, right? So it's kind of dialoguing with the hurter, right? I use that a lot in hypnosis. It works like magic, because you are so emotional. You can absolutely express everything you want to say. And Marisa Peer, she made this tool in her practice, right? Marisa Peer is the founder of the RTT school, and she put it as a tool, and it just has incredible results, how much it helps a person release the pain and the hurt, right? And to help a client say what they couldn't say. Sometimes the person just already died, and they need to still talk to that person to resolve. They can do this kind of dialogue, right? Also, you can absolutely ask for help, right? So sometimes we don't know how to do this, how to use these tools. We need guidance, right? So you always ask for help with any frustration, it's so much easier when someone can guide you how to resolve it. So, it can be just a counselor, a social worker, a great friend, who can talk to you and who can listen. It can also be someone like me, right? A hypnotherapist, because hypnosis is just such a deeper work, right? If you want to resolve the problem faster, if you want to release the emotions faster, you don't know how, you can contact me. My contacts are in the description. I can help, but at the same time, please watch the videos like these, subscribe, right? I'm going to talk a lot about any mental issues, and that you can find these little tips and tricks how to do that, right? So be healthy mentally and physically. I hope this information was valuable for you, and if it is, just like it, subscribe, comment if you have any questions. I'll try to respond to everyone. Love you. Bye.